doesn't exist, like this end member?
No, nowhere.
That's so exciting.
Like a holy grail.
Oh my gosh.
It's like trying to figure out the life cycle of a tree if you only live for a day.
You wouldn't have to try. They're all just like right here.
Multicores coming up.
And they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming.
How we turn, little baggies full of mud into scientific information.
Hello and welcome to the Ocean Hourglass podcast, a project showcasing the work and life aboard a summer expedition focused on ocean floor research across the Gulf of Alaska. I'm Olivia Siu, both your host and reporter, a scientist-made producer, and first-time cruiser. And starting from opening a cold email to syringing in Glacier Bay, I'll take you with me along on this journey of open water, maybe some elbow grease, and the type of team that's needed where field science is at the heart. When I first got the call to be media crew, the only instructions to join the team, who you'll meet later, was to make something creative at the end of the trip experience. Could be anything. To get in my head at the time of this invitation, I was with Embark Media at the University of Southern California and had just covered the college version of The Amazing Race, designed and hosted by outdoor gear brand Cotopaxi. And after running around South Central LA to catch gear drop scavenger hunts, slacklining lessons, and catching up with Ironman level college athletes, I thought an on-the-run, tiny microphone journalism type was also the way to go for the Alaska coverage. So naturally, REI was the first stop.
Carry cold for $500.
My sister is quizzing me from a wilderness safety book as I'm slowly getting humbled about how little I know about an open water Alaskan trip.
There's options if it is severe, and then there's options if it is severe.
If it's not,
if it's severe, if it is
severe internal bleeding, you got get to extraction. Just like get out of there.
But what is REI, if not a place to realize grandiose delusions in a down jacket? I show a staff member the packing list that I was sent by the expedition chief scientist, and we settled on the understanding that this trip, with its highly operational activities and it taking place during Alaska's summer midnight sun season, would probably make best use of deep sea fishing attire, otherwise known as foul weather gear.
So there's different. Huh? You look like a bro. No, actually, you look like a skater. Oh, because my hair.
We do. They're cool, right? But they're so huge. Yeah.
I know, that's the only thing. This is a commitment.
I like the beanie though. Those are great.
This is, at the end of the day, a work trip. While the audio landscape of a research vessel can be reminiscent of an Atlantis adventure or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea kind of voyage, giving thorough perspective of the research disciplines that are in attendance will be the true undertaking. This podcast is a cross-section, a ride-along. Rather than writing a 3-act structure, I'm going to try to paint a picture to take you there on board, because the story isn't actually done yet. As we speak, the science teams are back in their home labs where the breakthroughs actually happen through high-level sample analysis that could not have been done aboard the ship. With that said, this podcast is not a play-by-play. There are 3 research teams coming from 3 different disciplines, and they'll have separate needlepoint methods parts to their upcoming papers to get more of the meat of their work. This trip is also not an Indiana Jones straight dot-to-dot trip where we return with something shiny for the museum at the end. Instead, this was a journey of give and take between resources, manpower, and weather, but most importantly, success by pitting great minds and skill sets together to literally choose the best course of action, sometimes the day of. All for the sake of the same type of sample: ocean floor sediment. And if you were to see it, it looks like the once viral gluey charcoal clay mud masks, but honestly, you'll smell it before seeing it.
Really bad.
But like any good adventure, half the experience or the story happens around the dinner table, break times at the bow, and sometimes midnight snack chats. Time to meet the crew. In total, there are 17 science crew members across 3 different university labs. Up first, we have a paleogeology assist from both Marsam and Oregon State University, Dr. Mo Walzak, who studies ocean mapping by carbon dating.
I'm here sailing with the Marine Rock and Sediment Sampling Group, which is a NSF facility that I co-manage and that supports people who are collecting seafloor samples. But when I'm not working with the facility, I moonlight as a paleoceanographer. I actually can't decide if I'm a facility manager who's like pretending to be a scientist or a scientist pretending to be, it's all a mess.
Leading the geochemistry team and who is the expedition co-chief, we have Dr. Ali Tesson from Kent State University, studying iron oxidation and distribution across oceanic movement.
About half of the work that I do as my research is thinking about how the seafloor controls how chemicals move between the mud that exists below it and the water that exists above it. So what can happen here will control how carbon and nutrients and trace metals are either trapped and removed from the ocean or released back into the water.
Finally, we have the biology team from the University of Southern California, led by co-chief Dr. Drew Steen, who studies the enzyme activity of subsurface microbes.
So I'm a microbiologist, and I'm interested in, the main thing that I'm doing on this cruise is collecting samples that we are going to extract DNA out of to try to understand microbial life in the sediment.
Each lab is complete with students at all levels of their academic careers, even with expedition experience of their own, as we'll hear about later. The science crew combine name Phenomenals to reflect all research areas, focused on one sample type. What sits at the center of the 3-team research diagram are deep sediment samples, also known as cores, for the way that they are extracted in long tubes.
It's so fun. I love watching it.
Yeah.
I watch it all the time, but it's so fun. Yeah, there's no tension on the line. You guys can walk through that.
All right.
Our ship, and entire research cruise for that matter, is funded by the National Science Foundation, or NSF, who is the leading U.S. institution for the biggest non-medical research projects. The ship is called the RV, or research vessel, Sikuliaq, which translates from Inupiaq for young sea ice. It is a 261-foot oceanic research vessel designed to cut marine ice up to 2.5 feet thick and is capable of bringing scientists to the ice-choked waters of Alaska and the polar regions. We'll be diving into its specialized expedition design and equipment in a later episode, but here's a clip of Noah, second assistant engineer, choosing a car model to represent the Sikuliaq's level of tech compared to other vessels.
I think in the sense that the Sikuliaq is pretty high tech compared to other cargo vessels. If you were to compare it to like a car model, would it be like a Tesla, Prius, or like a Honda Civic?
Compared to a car model, a Tesla Cybertruck, because it hasn't. We haven't quite worked out all the quirks yet, but it's getting there. Yeah, but I don't know. We are diesel electric. There's not. So I guess no, we'd be more of a hybrid. I think. I don't know. I don't know too many hybrid cars out there. I know there's a lot.
Online at sikuliaq.alaska.edu, there are walkable maps in 360-degree views of its labs, decks, and interior. And yeah, the garlic bread pictured in the cafeteria or mess hall is homemade and as delicious as it looks. The trip was 2 weeks total of at-sea time, so no docks, no ports. And the way research ops was divided was splitting the science crew into 2 different 12-hour shifts with overlap for debrief meetings. So that from both a ship crew and science ops standpoint, work was done around the clock and passed off like a baton at a relay race. Because of the 12-hour shifts, this crew likely had different individual versions of the trip itself. Could be more sunrises than sunsets, could be more matinees than movie nights. But to get a sense of a profession that operates on shift work, I turned to one of my closest friends, Alex, who studied mechatronics and aims for a career in F1 racing.
It was really helpful because we had a chance to talk to the ex-F1 drivers such as Mika Häkkinen and Jenson Button, and the FIA members and the club members who are actually working in the industry. In my opinion, the shift work was really necessary because we were running 10 golf cart at a time, and the service started from 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening. And since we only had like 18 people in total, having shift work really ensured that we were not double booked.
Push back a little bit.
Back?
You're not in yet.
My advice would be is to be time conscious, and that it can be tiring as well. But we have to remember that all of us are working in shift and we must rely on each other. Therefore, it's important not to skim out on your own duty.
Yep. All right, cool. Thank you.
It's important to finish your own work. Don't blame others. Even if you make a mistake, that you own up to it. Those 3 tips really help me navigate working through a really high pressure and fast-paced environment.
As media crew, I had what's called a floating shift. So no shift and no schedule. So me being a 24-year-old hailing from downtown LA, I plan to use my extrovert battery to the best of its ability. But in all seriousness, my best move was to join the handover meetings between shifts and trace the journey of a sample as a through line. And we'll see in the next few episodes how that panned out. And finally, to complete that 2-person media team, we also had a videographer join, Nina Cheklik, who hailed from the same graduating class at USC Cinema that previous spring, and is overall the type of yes friend you'd want to bunk with at a crazy 24/7 at-sea trip like this. Her video will be linked in the show notes. For now, it was time for us to meet up with Megan Winsler, an incoming PhD on the biology team, and head out of LAX en route to Anchorage.
Let's do a movie night and watch Crazy
Yo.
It's the way I downloaded Crazy Rich Asians.
You did too?
We'll catch y'all there in the next episode.
I was thinking like a murder mystery, I don't know why.